Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the Identity Project. Two podcasts going down today. Obviously, it'll be released at separate dates there, but I'm excited. I have a Dallas local, somebody that we've kind of known of each other, from the CrossFit space for quite a few years now. But later in our lives, I guess, kind of connecting as entrepreneurs, which is really cool. So without further ado, Mr. Brian Shotwell, how are you, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. So, dude, you know how we do it on the podcast. I love taking people back. I love learning about their stories. I love, just really, sharing stories that inspire and like we were talking about before this, having people kind of realize that, that person didn't just get there one day. They didn't just snap their fingers. Like it took time. And your story is pretty inspiring with what you're kind of trying to do with the supplement company, and kind of doing it in a way that really just simplifies the process, which is kind of one of our taglines with iCoach Nutrition, which I love. But dude, before we dive into that, let's take it way back. Where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Whitesboro, Texas, and that is up by Sherman, which is an even smaller town. Like, it's a small town still, but super small town. My parents still live up there. It's like 3,000 people. I actually went to school with 40 other people as my graduating high school class. So I guess you could call me a country boy, but, I never wore like boots and a cowboy hat and all that stuff. But yeah, super small town, and just kind of grew up playing sports and being outside. Like that was my childhood, playing sports, really. That's all.
Yeah.
Nothing else to do in Whitesboro, Texas, other than play basketball and baseball. So why not?
I was going to say, I was like, well, the first thing I thought was definitely country boy when I heard that.
Yeah. For sure.
We actually did. So I did like powerlifting in high school, and Sherman, we competed against them. I think they had a team then as well.
Really?
Yeah. So I've been out in that area, but yeah, definitely country. So did you live on like a farm, or like what did that look like?
So my grandparents, my mom's parents actually raised racehorses. They had a ranch. Probably when I was like 5, I remember they bought this ranch. My grandpa retired, and they bought this ranch and lots of land. And I remember having to because they would go out of town a lot, and we would have to feed the horses. And I was like 5, having to drag horse feed. And I'm like, Dad, I literally can't even pick this bucket up. Like, what are we doing here? But yeah, we had maybe an acre of land is where I remember growing up with. So still kind of not like a ton of land. Sorry about that. But yeah, growing up around horses, kind of a little bit. Yeah.
Got it. So did you, you mentioned you played sports. Did you say you had brothers and sisters as well, or you were one child?
I got a 9-year older brother than me. So I grew up, he was kind of super cool older brother. When he was in high school, I would have been 9, so preteen. So he introduced me to cool music. He was always jamming his guitar, playing AC/DC and Metallica, and he would kind of take me out and show me some of the stuff my parents wouldn't let me do, bomb a hill on a mountain bike and flip over the handlebars, and oh my God, this is so cool. So he was kind of the adventurous of the two of us. He would always take me out.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I can relate to that. So I was an only child till I was 8, and then my parents had twins on Christmas Eve, and then another 1 year later. But it was interesting growing up and at just different stages of life. We were closer at certain stages versus others. And I mean, 8-9 years, that's a pretty big age gap.
Yeah. What was it like for you? I've asked my brother this question, but what was it like for you? Dude, we've been rocking just the three of us just fine, Mom and Dad. What?
Yeah. Well, so for us, it was my parents had tried. Well, I don't want to say I was a mistake, but kind of an accident. I think they were 19, 20, something like that. But yeah, they tried to have kids after that for the next 8 years and just couldn't, unfortunately. And so they had to do in vitro to have the twins. So, and then 1 year later, just randomly, they had Ashland as a surprise. So, and you hear that a lot, like after you get in vitro done. So, but yeah, man, it's it was definitely, going from being an only child for 8 years and probably a little more spoiled to, basically being the second dad, helping my mom because my dad was always gone working.
Yeah, man. When did you start becoming like close with the twins?
I mean, I think once it's funny. At first I was like, I'm not going to talk to the girl at all. And then I think probably when they were able to actually like start playing games and stuff around the house, we would do, a whole bunch of really funny, hilarious stuff. Honestly, like back in the one quick example was the Fear Factor. You remember that show?
But of course, yeah.
Yeah, so we would do like at-home Fear Factor, and because I was the older brother, I would make them do everything. I'd make them like eat these like crazy concoctions, and like I'd make them like get in like freezing cold water and like all this stuff. But anyways,
you were Joe Rogan back then, dude.
I know, right? So what were the sports? You said you played baseball and basketball. Was that right?
Yeah, baseball and basketball, and those were, every boy I feel like dabbles if you're gonna play sports into football, but that kind of trailed off around, I don't know, like 15 or 16, and I always, my parents always put me in like select baseball specifically. So it's funny, like being a dad now, you look back like, man, my parents were driving me like all around the South playing baseball as a 9-year-old. I'm like, man, I hope I'm that kind of dad now. Like my parents gave up work days and like weekends for sure, just so I can like do better at a sport. So that was kind of that was my childhood. I remember a lot of like road trips playing baseball with my little select team and then basketball during the off season. And yeah, I think that was just stewarded by my dad, playing like slow pitch softball with his friends. I grew up like just watching him do that. So I naturally just kind of wanted to pick up a baseball and do that. So I didn't play in college, but still like just sports. I think it's so important as a young budding man to kind of have that discipline and really just the physical aspect of it, especially in 2019 with screens and video games and all that stuff. Like you were raised kind of the same way of, man, a PlayStation didn't come around until you and I were like teenagers almost. So there was no 2K. There was go outside and do something. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
What were you? So did you say you pitched? Was that right?
A little, yeah. And then I got to where, in high school, there's just like those freaks that are man children and can throw 95 miles an hour as a 16-year-old. So I kind of transitioned to playing second base, and that was my deal. Just a tall, skinny boy. I was just had good skills and was never exceptionally strong or could hit home runs, but I was athletic enough to make it happen.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that was that was the biggest part of me growing up in terms of sports was baseball. I played from the time, I played t-ball until I was like a junior in high school, but from like 9 to the time I finally got burnt out and quit, I played select and was playing like, up to 160 games a year. And it was just like, it was a lot. I actually think about it now and I'm like, man, I kind of wish I wouldn't have quit. And because I think I could legitimately have gotten like a D1 scholarship to play baseball, but I quit when I was a sophomore and just played football. I ended up getting a football scholarship, but I didn't start playing football until I was like in middle school. So, but yeah, it just goes to show, and it's a great reminder for me as, now a parent that like, and my parents didn't do this. This was 100% on me, but just not getting burnt out on sports. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a huge, huge thing that I want to make sure that I, prioritize and make sure that I'm not too pushy in that regard.
Oh, totally. I think about that all the time. Of like, when do you even like introduce that to your kid? Like, did they have to show interest? And I have a girl like volleyball. Like, or do you just start like tossing the volleyball to them? Because I'm sure you remember days of like, dude, I would, summer as a kid, you don't want to go to the baseball field at noon with your dad and just get batting practice thrown at you for hours on end. Like, come on, Dad. Like, I like it, and I think it built some good character, but there's definitely a fine line of like burnout.
Yeah,
For sure. Yeah.
100%. So what were the, playing sports throughout your life, like what would you say, looking back on it now, were your biggest like takeaway from being an athlete and from kind of being in that environment?
And at least for me, it was always just consistency, and like repetition and reps. Like I would want to get ground balls hit to me until I couldn't. Like I felt super comfortable and I wasn't going to miss one. And I think that's carried over into my personal life now, as a dad, as a husband, and now as a business owner, of just getting reps in. And some days that's just showing up and practicing and just doing it over and over and over and over again. So yeah, I think discipline, and then just having the discipline to kind of do that stuff and carry that stuff over and just do it a lot until you get comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that's such a missing link for maybe, and I think you can find consistency in other ways, outside of just sports, but I feel like, a lot of people that maybe didn't play sports throughout life, like maybe they, that in terms of instant gratification, it's harder to grasp. They're not used to putting in the reps, if you will.
Right.
So yeah, man, that's interesting. So what did the transition look like in high school into like college? Like what type of kid were you? I mean, obviously you played sports, but like as you're getting towards the near end of high school, like what did that transition kind of look like?
Yeah. So I was never really like, I didn't party in high school. I think my parents like scared the shit out of me, honestly. And I've always been kind of a rule follower, or not particularly so much now, but back then. So parents were super conservative. And then when I get to college, I feel like any college kid that's had a curfew his whole life and kind of rules established, you just party. And that was me for the first, I would say, year and a half, 2 years of college for sure, just struggling with grades and academic probation and all of that. So that transition was a little bit, like, looking back, like, I'm glad I had that party era, but a little bit of a culture shock. And that may sound weird for some people to hear, like going to UNT, which is where I went to school, Denton, Texas. That's not like a huge town, but for me, it was a huge town. Like, I was used to having 40 people in my whole entire grade, to now, like, nobody's watching you. Like, nobody cares if you go to class. Nobody cares what you do. And you can just truly express yourself and kind of be who you want to be. So after those, probably we'll say 2 years of partying, kind of that discipline kicked back in, and I got into working out super hard and kind of eating right, and not drinking and not going out, and kind of became real serious about my degree plan, and then from there, it just kind of took off. And I feel like I learned more about myself in that time than high school in the first 2 years, just because I like, no, this is like who I want to be, and I don't want to be like the party guy anymore. So yeah, that was that transition, probably like junior year of college.
Was was it kind of one of those situations where like things just stacked up and it finally happened, or was like there was a specific incident? Was there like my
Yeah,
story where it's like the lowest low, or like what?
yeah. I think one of the best things my parents have ever done for me is cut me off financially. So our agreement, I say it's agreement. They told me, like, hey, we'll completely pay for your college. We'll give you, basically, we'll pay all your bills, give you an allowance, we'll call it, to like spend on basically jack around money. You just gotta like not fail college, basically. Like, that's simple. You don't have to get a job. And that completely went away whenever, they find out that you're essentially failing out of college and spending their money on booze and still don't have money to pay rent type deal. So they came to me and were like, hey, we'll help you get student loans, but we're not going to waste our money, basically. So that is what triggered my like discipline and like, okay, I got to go get almost basically a full-time job to pay for my college, the expenses of paying rent, and got to eat and do all that stuff. So yeah, the last 2 years I kind of paid my way through college with the help of student loans. So that's definitely like a lesson in tough love of, yeah, it got me to kind of where I am now of nobody's going to do it for you. You know, you have to get out and make it happen.
Ain't that the truth?
Man. But again, back to the parenting stuff, it's like, man, there is a line of like, you know, you want to take care of your kid and like do all that stuff, but at some point there has to be some personal responsibility on their part of mommy and daddy aren't going to always be there to make sure you show up to class or show up to your job or, you know, fulfill your human duties, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely and I'm sure as you know our kids get older, it'll become even more interesting of a process. But yeah, man, it's definitely a balance. That's for sure. So hopefully we'll play the cards right.
Yeah. Hopefully we figure it out and our kids aren't on a podcast talking about, man, we just wasted our parents' money for years and they had to cut us off. But you know, it is what it is.
That's hilarious. So how did you get, I mean, obviously, you know, where we kind of first got introduced to each other was kind of through the CrossFit space. So at what point did that kind of come into your life?
That was so I kind of went at it a little bit backwards. I actually got my bachelor's degree, and the month I got my bachelor's degree, I actually enlisted into the Army, into what's called the DEP program, delayed entry program. And that's just basically like, hey, you'll get your degree, and then I think I had a full month, like a month and a half, until I shipped out and went and did the whole basic training thing. Um, so during that time, I had in my head, like going into the Army of, dude, like everybody's going to be just a stud. Like I got to get in super shape. Like time of my life is coming now. So I did that leading into it. And so just all throughout the Army, and I guess probably 2011, like CrossFit at least really, like YouTube was a thing. So you could see like Rich Froning doing his thing at the games and all that stuff. So we started like messing around with CrossFit in 2011. Me and a guy Spaeth, that was in my unit in the Army, just kind of messing around with it, like doing some of the workouts on our free time. And that was when the Army was kind of moving towards a different like training program physically wise of like, now you did like pull-ups and like shuttle runs and some kettlebell stuff kind of at that time as a unit. So that was really my introduction to CrossFit, was probably like 2011. So when I got out 2012, I just hit up Spencer over at CFPC because that's who I'd gotten my level 1 through, and my wife kind of had that connection through Lululemon, and knew those guys and asked for an internship, and that was my like introduction into kind of I had like a kind of the oil and gas job post Army for like a quick minute, and then yeah, started doing the CrossFit thing in like into 2012 coaching.
Very nice. That's
Yeah,
awesome, man. Started
yeah,
sipping the Kool-Aid then, huh?
yeah. Oh, for sure. You know, stopped doing bicep curls and uh, the typical like just gym stuff. Which it's funny how that evolves. I did bicep curls today, so
Yeah, I was about to say.
nobody judge me, CrossFit world, please.
Yeah, I was about to say I was away for it for a little bit, but I'm back. I'm back.
Of course, it feels so good. Come on, guys.
Hey, you know, at the end of the day, well, maybe not for everybody, but you know, looking good naked, you know, it's just
Come on,
it matters, at least to me.
it does matter, and you know, you can even break it down in the functional world of like even competitive CrossFit. Like you do more bicep curls, you can do more pull-ups. That's science. That's just science.
Science rules.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude, so I want to dive into, really what we came here today to talk about. So maybe real quick, like this last transition, obviously CrossFit was a really, really big part of your life, but
Yeah.
as you kind of shifted out of the coaching space and then into what you do now. So kind of talk us through that, and then let's dive into the motherboard, man. What's going on with you these days?
Yeah. So back in September 2018, really even roll back to like last springtime. So, middle of 2018, I started slowly developing like my own protein supplement. And it was just one of those things of like, I couldn't really find, I've been taking protein um, a long time. Like I remember my dad throwing a weight gainer shake in my hand when I was like 15. Um, and it just got to the point where I was just like kind of tired of it. And my stomach was having issues at the time and couldn't really like grab onto a brand that I really like. One, that I felt good on, and two, like I didn't care about like the GNC like brand. So I just started like working on that and working on like what I could do small batch wise and how can I make something that's clean and tastes good at the same time. And then that kind of got into like those moments where you're like, you think you want to do something and then it actually happens and it's like, well, shit, now I actually have to kind of do it. So that happened back in September. I left the coaching world and we kind of dove into the supplement world really. And our whole thing is just like simple everything, simple ingredients and simple branding and all that stuff. But yeah, so we're probably like probably a true like 6 months in now.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it, man. That's awesome. I totally relate to what you said in terms of like, thinking about something, starting it, and then like realizing like, oh shit, like this is actually happening. Like I gotta go all in,
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. But you know, I think just making that step, like I kept going back to this almost like voice in my head of like, dude, do not be 90 years old, looking back, wishing you would have done something and holding on to that regret for 60 years of your whole life. Like that feels like a prison to me. Um, and I think same with you. It's like our jobs were not like bad. Like I would never speak ill of the CrossFit gym I worked at because it was awesome for that period of time. But man, it feels so great even to just like take that leap of faith and just do it. And, you go through those worst case. Like, what is the worst case scenario? It's kind of hard to say that there is one. You just go get another job. Like, it's fine. You can do it.
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, I commend you for, for making that jump because, obviously we can sit here and talk about it, but it is hard and it's scary. And like, you're having this like internal dialogue of like, what could go wrong, and it's just like, at some point you got to just kind of like jump off a ledge and just do it, or you're going to just end up probably not doing it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, CrossFit was an amazing part of my life for that time. And, I it's something that, it was very, very impactful. I just think that there's always going to be an evolution,
Yes.
the evolution of where we're at now will be different, 5-10 years from now. So,
100%.
I love it, dude. So how did you, well, first off, what's the name of the company and how did that whole process happen? Like, how did you pick that?
Yeah. So our company name's Honeybeard Training. And then our protein's called It's Just Protein. So how that kind of name and branding came about is our mutual friend Dean Zhu. We worked together, and he kind of been doing branding for people for better part of a decade now. So there was a time where he just kind of like jacked around and like told me like, "Hey, I made you a logo," and I was like, that's super cool. Cause I was like, I'll just make like this training blog, like just put out my workouts. And he's like, here's this logo. Just put it on this website and do it. And it was a logo of a bee, and in the wings was an American flag. So kind of a play off the veteran stuff. And so, oh, and the name Honeybeard, I used to just turn my head back and squeeze honey into my mouth post workout, like with the protein shake. And it would like drizzle into my beard and get all sticky and stuff. And there's actually this photo of Dean actually squeezing it into my mouth back in the day. So he just came up with the name Honeybeard, and here we are. And like I was saying, the name of it is just protein. We're just simple in our branding and kind of our whole vibe of our company. So yeah, it's
That's
just
awesome.
protein. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, you do realize that you're actually never, ever going to be able to cut your beard there, right?
never. Somebody asked me, like, are you ever? And I was like, no, I don't know. You know, the classic, like during the summertime, don't you get hot? I mean, I guess I don't remember what it's like even to not have it. So this is it.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, it's just like girls. I mean, I've had short hair my whole life. Like I think about having
Yeah.
long hair and I'm like, oh my God, there's no way. But if I was a girl, I'd be used to it, you know? So
Oh, totally. Yeah. That'd be like me asking you, dude, are you ever going to grow your hair out? No, this is who I am. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you know, one of the things we had talked about, like when we first started chatting about, you know, the company was with, you know, the name and like just the simplicity of it. You know, like one of the things that like we really pride ourselves on at iCoach is like simplifying the process for people. You know,
Yeah.
there's people out there, you know, nutrition can be really, really complicated,
Yes.
but it doesn't necessarily have to be, you know?
Right.
And so, you know, it's just protein, like that name, like, you know, I just think it speaks to what really, if we're looking for a protein powder, well, I don't think that we need to have 50, 100 ingredients in there.
Yeah.
I don't think that we need to combine a protein supplement and a probiotic. I don't think, you know, it's just like, if you're buying a
Right.
protein powder, cool, like buy like, you know, whey protein isolate, like there you go. And you're
Yes.
probably going to have, you know, a couple other ingredients just so it doesn't taste like absolute crap. But besides
Right.
that, you know,
Man, you nailed it. And there's so many, like you said, like you walk into GNC and it's like neon packaging and, you know, an ingredient list of probably literally close to 50 ingredients where you're like, once I started figuring out like those actually don't need to be in there. Like there's no reason for that to be in there. So yeah, just simplifying it for people of, hey, our stuff tastes great and it's a whey protein isolate and it's sweetened with stevia and there's no carbs and no sugars. Like that's it. That you don't look no further basically. And that's not meant to sound cocky, but and same with iCoach of like, man, it doesn't have to be so complicated that it overwhelms you and gives you anxiety about nutrition and supplementing your nutrition. Like, let us do it for you. Let us help. Let iCoach help. And now, you know, Honeybeard protein plug. Yeah. So yeah,
yes, sir. I love it.
I think it's a perfect like match made in heaven.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Do you so what is like what's kind of been like talk us through a little bit, you know, I know obviously, you know, it's been officially like 6-ish months, but kind of talk to me a little bit you know, through kind of like the launch and like just like what the response has been like thus far.
Yeah. So kind of going back to the CrossFit community, you know as well as I do, like that community can become a really solid foundation for a community of, you know, different walks of life of people that can help you out with whether that's helping you out with your website or having coffee with and like, hey, how do I even like market this? How do I form an LLC? That type of stuff. So that was our launch, and my wife's been helping out, or she did help out, and she still does with kind of just becoming an actual business. So we did a pre-sale, like a pre-order type deal, and we really didn't even have our LLC or a corporation, anything yet. So just kind of getting that whole turning it into from a hobby into a company. Um, and then our launch was really just relying on people from the CrossFit community to kind of, whether they wanted even the protein to start or not, they just wanted to support me as a person and my wife as a person. And then that's kind of turned over the past 3 or 4 months into like, wow, this stuff is actually good. And um, they're telling their friends and they're posting about it on social media and growing it that way. And more than half the orders we get now, we don't even know the person's name, like personally. So it's just been really organic growth, and shows you the power of social media. And really, our whole thing is like, we still hand deliver orders if you're in Dallas, and try to kind of meet people at the door if they're there and shake their hand and say thank you. And yeah, we're still just a small company. So yeah, just being nice to people basically. If they make a comment or DM us or post about us, like, man, thank you. Like, I think those 2 words can go a long ways when you're starting a company and trying to get the word out there. But yeah, totally grassroots and just word of mouth type stuff and social media.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's so cool that y'all are hand delivering in Dallas. That was awesome. I know when you when this all kind of first happened, you did the same for me. You brought it by, and I was like, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, man, like what a good dude. Like, that's
thanks,
awesome.
man. Yeah, it's pretty fun just to, sometimes on weekends we'll like load up the whole family in the truck and just throw a picnic in there and just take orders to people. Just kind of drive all around the Metroplex and kind of just see your own. I get to see my own city. I'm kind of like a truck driver at times, but it's super cool and it's humbling, and it keeps me excited for every order to come in. I'm sure you feel the same way when somebody signs up with iCoach of like, man, kind of like what an honor that we get to help these people. That's every order I say that, especially, people I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a hell of a lot of nutrition coaching companies and protein supplement companies out there. So yes, for them to, invest in their health, invest in their health from both applications, it's a humbling process. And really, I mean, that's what goes back to like, the human interaction piece for us, like the customer service for you, for both of us, but like it's important. Like, I mean, we would be nothing without the customers. Right. And so, I mean, 100%. Literally every single thing that we do is for them so that we can continue to do what we're passionate about. And, I'll never, ever, ever forget or, undermine, what we've been given, because, although being an entrepreneur is like a sexy word right now, like, it also allows us, like we've talked about, to, be there with our kids. And like, for me, and I know you as well, like that's something that really means a lot to us. So
yes, 100%. I'll flip the script on you. Do you remember one moment where you're like, I hope I never forget this moment, when you were like starting out, of whether that's like grinding something out, or like having to like code a website or talk to, you told me you used to coach like 30 something people like yourself a month. Like do you have a moment where you remember like, man, whenever 20 years from now, I'm going to be telling my kid this story about when I first started my company?
Yeah, well, at the height before I started hiring other coaches, I was working with 80 people.
I was way off. That is so crazy.
Yeah, that was I would not recommend that whatsoever. Luckily now I'm at a much better place. But no, man, I mean, I think the story that will go on and be told for me to my kids will 100% be what just happened with Josiah, because started the business and 2 months later found out, unexpectedly, that my wife was pregnant with him. And so, that'll be the story, because, not only was I motivated from, quitting a job of 5 years and starting my own business after being in the field for almost, 10, it was now 2 months later finding out that, oh shit, like it's not just, me and my wife anymore. Now we're expecting a kid. So, it lit a fire to my ass, and it made that first year, a year of hustle for sure.
Yeah,
So that'll probably be the story that's told, I bet, the most. But
that's so
um,
cool.
I think going, like, kind of to answer your question a little more specifically, I think it's going back to what we talked about with like the sports, like the consistency, like putting in the reps, like always failing forward, like not sitting here and caring about what other people think about you. Like, like all of these same principles, like I want to instill in my children, and hopefully, when they're, my same age, like iCoach Nutrition is still around. It's still a business. Like
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
yeah. And it's almost like a movie at some point. Like for us, my wife and I, it's like packing boxes at 1 a.m. like in our bedroom because we just have 2 pallets of protein that needs to go out that just showed up at our doorstep. Like that's what you tell your kids that, and hopefully that like work ethic of you and I and all the people out there like trying to hustle a startup right now, just exposing your kids to that and telling them like it's not just the Kardashian lifestyle of you look and everything's fine and dandy and social media is the be all end all. Like no, there's still like coaching 80 clients on your own and packing boxes at 1 a.m. Like there's still a grind to that. So I think about those stories a lot and like snapshot them in my mind for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No, one of the most powerful things I ever started doing actually was journaling, like the process, right? So,
Oh man.
I mean, think about a journal entry every single day for the first year of your business or for the first year of your, kid's life, and obviously continue past a year. But just being able to, I know as an entrepreneur, and this is something we talk about a lot with like other coaches that we mentor too, is like you know whether it's one word or a sentence or 5 pages, just like put something in that journal each and every day, because like the good times that you have in there, like the reminders, like that's going to help you get through and overcome the bad days and the struggles, because we all know like that's inevitable. And I think just being able to have that reminder of, what, I'm in tough times right now. This is challenging, but I've also had really good times, and I've had a lot of successes up until this point as well. So it's just
Yeah.
another thing you got to overcome.
Oh man, I completely agree. I'm getting definitely better about like not thinking that I'm already where I want to be and where the company I think is headed, and just enjoying like the moment and all the orders that come through and all the people I get to touch and talk to. So now that I'm gonna definitely start journaling now about the business.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Like we always say with, whether it's this or whether it's with the clients that we're working with or, whoever, like, it's just like, if we can convince ourselves to like fall in love with the process, even if you don't fall in love with it necessarily, like at first in the beginning, like it might take some time, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But fall in love with the process and like embrace like the journey, and know
Yes.
that it's gonna be a journey. Like none of this stuff is easy, and like it's not supposed to be. Like it wouldn't be
Right.
worth it if it was easy. So
Oh, totally. Man, that's so true of like what you said about it. It may not be like you may not like it to start, but you will. Like you do end up, you always heard that like coming up of like just enjoy the journey. You're like, yeah, 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 sure, sure, sure. And then you actually get in a situation where you tell yourself that and you're like, dude, just enjoy today. Like enjoy, be grateful for one thing today that you're doing. Like I'm sitting here barefoot. Do I have pants on? I don't know, but I'm barefoot and this is working. And that's crazy. So I'm grateful for the process and the stuff I get to learn and people I get to meet and touch. And so yeah, that's totally true.
I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I want to respect your time here. I know we could probably chop it up all day, but
Yeah.
dude, where can everybody find you at? The protein and website, social media, all those things. That way they
Yes.
can go and look y'all up.
Yeah. So at Honeybeard Training is our IG handle. Same for Facebook. And then honeybeardtraining.com. And you can get our protein on there. We have 2-pound tubs and little single serve packs which is good for like travel and taking to the gym. And last little plug, a portion of every of our sales goes to veteran mental health organizations. So our whole goal as a company is to kind of, one, help people obviously when their lifestyle goals and nutrition and fitness goals, but also helping those veterans. We still have over 20 veterans a day committing suicide, and that's near and dear to my heart. So yeah, that's kind of our mission as a company. So just know somebody's out there getting affected by you buying protein. That's it.
Yeah, I love that. I can't believe I forgot to mention
no,
that.
dude, it's all good, man. It's all good.
But yeah, man, that's super exciting. I love to see that. And really, I haven't said this to you, but thank you for your service, and everything, everything that you've done. And really, it's just cool. I mean, it's just cool to see people paying it forward and wanting to like help people.
100%. Yeah, that's it. I think that's why you and I connect so well, is that it truly is. It's not about us living in a mansion and posing with our Bentleys or anything like that. Like, that stuff's great and all, but man, if I could help 1 million people, just put a number on it, like, that makes me so happy to do. And I think the same can be said for you too.
Absolutely, man. I love it. Well, dude, enjoy this amazing Dallas weather we have here.
Oh man, I'm going outside for sure.
Awesome, dude. Well, I'll let you know when this goes live, and yeah, man, share everything with you, and we'll get
perfect.
let me actually